Solving period problems with period solutions. That's our challenge for you this week on the 11th OVC. All right, so this week, one of the things that we want to talk about is solving, like I said in the intro, solving period problems with period solutions. My partner, our adjutant with the 11th Ohio. Yes, right?
Yeah, that works. Gopher.
Yeah, our adjutant. Adjutant sounds better.
Yeah.
Brandon Lewis with the 11th Ohio here with us. And what we're going to talk about is just one of the ways of improving your impression is the idea of the rule of reenacting, of solving those period problems, of the problems that we encounter during the reenactments with period solutions. Why is it so important to stick with that rule rather than to solve it with, say, modern day things? Why would that be a rule we need to live by during the reenactment?
For some people, it can help them get through the weekend, but for me personally, it makes it a little more of a period moment. I mean,
yeah, right.
A great example is when you go through camp and you see coolers sticking on the back of a tent.
Right. So that's a good question. Actually, really good intro or a good example is as far as solving a period problem of, I guess the problem would be food storage or food preparation, right? That would be the problem, and people have commonly, especially in the mainstream side of things, they've solved that period problem of food preparation, food preservation with a modern day solution, how does that take away from the reenactment? I mean, why is that really that big of a deal?
Because they wouldn't have had something made of styrofoam sticking out of the back of the tent.
It's just a cooler, hidden in a tent. It's not that big of a deal, is it? Or is it? Like, what is the big deal about coolers? And how can then we take that away and then solve it with a period solution? Then? So what's the problem with coolers?
That they're not historically accurate.
The obvious, right? Like, they're not historically accurate. And I guess one of the things for me that I live by, and you guys have seen this in the videos that we've had as far as the gear and equipment, all that kind of stuff. I like the rule of threes or fours or whatever, the idea of every strike against you, everything that you do that's inauthentic or not kosher gets you that much further away from what you're trying to do, right? And so if you're already in a incorrect tent, with incorrect bedding, with an incorrect food supply, with incorrect gear, with an incorrect camp setup, that is why we have this dichotomy between mainstream and authentics, right? So what would be the solution to the food preparation problem? If we have to bring cooler to keep stuff cold, because a lot of times preserving it, it rots, if we bring meat or something like that, it rots. What would be the solution to not have to have a cooler at a reenactment?
Probably have period correct foods.
That's it, right? Instead of bringing, whether it's your cheese or well, maybe cheese is a bad example, but the food that you bring, modern eggs would be a good example, right? A lot of reenactments, especially on the mainstream side, bacon and eggs and your standard breakfast kind of stuff, potatoes maybe. One thing that we did, actually both of the wagon escort we had this year and previous reenactments that we've had, the bacon that we use is actually a dry-cured bacon, right? How is that different than, I guess, what does that allow us to do then versus, say, modern day bacon? Why is that such a big difference?
It allows you to go several days without having to worry about meat spoiling,
right?
Or having other bodily issues with what you've ingested.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and that's one thing too. Is I thought you said this is have a period meal, right? Whether it's called, the book is called Hardtack and Coffee for a reason, right? That was their staple. They had hardtack, they had coffee. Call it a meat ration, whatever it is. The Civil War Digital Digest did a really good job on the ration issue. So we'll link that video here. Actually, just click on the video that pops up right now. But the meat ration was primarily, well, depending on where you went, a bacon, right?
Sorry, this meat ration.
No,
I'm sorry.
You realize I'm going to keep that in, though.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Great.
No, yeah. So the meat ration, it was you know, very much so bacon based, or at least pork based. Beef was awesome, but not readily available. Not all the time. I mean, obviously, person, play, or unit, time, you know, location obviously dictates what the impression would be. But bacon and pork of some sort was kind of a common thing. So yeah. So on the dry cured side of things, the dry cured side of things, what that dry cured bacon allows you to do is you don't have to have it refrigerated, unlike the modern day bacon that you have today. So yeah, that, I mean, as far as the cooler, you don't need the cooler. I guess you have to ask yourself, why do you need the cooler? Is it because of your bacon or eggs that you had there? Or honestly, let's be honest, is it because of the Coke, the beer, the other things that we maybe indulge in, that if you can't go 2, 3, 4 days without, you know, Dr. Pepper, then, well,
you're gonna have a hard time.
You're gonna have a hard time. Maybe this isn't the hobby for you, right? So no, I mean, again, and that's the thing.
No, and it all comes down to what you want to get out of it.
Exactly. And of course, not to get on a rabbit trail, but just go to the events that you want to go to. I mean, there's a reason people like bringing. Well, Cavalry is a really. I mean, they have a reputation for a reason, right? They have a reputation for a reason. A lot of the cavalry that we ride with on the mainstream side, they don't even camp in the company street. They sleep in their, you know, gigantic horse trailers with living quarters in the side, which is, you know, kind of defeats the whole purpose. They just came to ride. They're not really into the authentic, you know, experience. And so you have to make sure you know what you're getting into with the events, and you know what to expect with the event you go to. So coolers, we talked about that as far as solving period problems, period solutions. If you have a cooler, if you don't know how to do food preparation, basically what that means is your rations are not the right type of rations, right? Get the right type of rations: hardtack, coffee, dry cured bacon, dry cured pork, dry cured ham. You know, the cured stuff that actually can go, well, months without being refrigerated. Okay?
And learn how to prepare them in a period manner.
Yes.
Which you can also learn from several other links that we can provide for you.
You betcha. Okay, so problem number 2, especially on the cavalry side, is horse blankets, right? So those of you who've been following our Facebook page, we posted some of the problems that a lot of people have that ride a lot with the McClellan saddles, is having sore-backed horses. One of the reputations of the McClellan, especially in modern day horsemanship, is that the McClellan is horrible for horses, and they cause a lot of sores. And so one of the solutions that a lot of people do is what?
They'll use modern pads and other methods to try to make it a little less strenuous on the animal.
Which, I mean, can you fault them? I mean, so this is kind of your argument. In fact, those of you who followed our Facebook page, they're actually, whether you call it an argument or not, there was a good discussion on the Facebook page of, you know, do you use modern padding or do you not? And when it comes to the health of the horse, you know, there's an argument of you don't want to just purposely hurt your horse, but here's where I am with solving period problems with period solutions. They had more horses. They were better horsemen. They lived a life. We're just as weekend warriors. They solved this problem. This wasn't a new thing that they just had no idea how to deal with. This was their life, so they had to have a problem. They had to have a solution for this problem, right? And that's one thing that I think is important. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the thing to remember is that nowadays we only have one horse, and we purchased it ourselves,
right,
or borrow it from someone that
right.
has
some, right?
Yes. However you can, but somebody has to pay for that animal, the tack, the travel to get it point A to point B, and it's a big investment. And so you try to take care of it in as best possible way that you can.
Yeah.
And in the modern age, why not, utilize those modern methods to take care of, make sure there's no saddle sores, right, make sure that the animal is getting a proper diet, But with you look at a lot of primary accounts and you read about how poor a condition the horses are in, especially in the later years of the war.
Right.
When forage is scarce, you know, and you're constantly on the go, and you're wearing out the animals. And I mean, there was a reason they had a remount system as well.
Right.
I mean,
well, so
which we don't have now.
No, we you got to take care of your horse.
So
right? Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that yes, period techniques for taking care of the horses are important, but it's always nice to fall back on modern things that can sometimes help you out of it.
Exactly. So where I fall with the saddle blanket thing is because some of our horses have had some issues. We've never had like open sores necessarily, but we've had, you know, you could tell there's some tender spots, and there's some, if we didn't catch it, if we didn't take care of it, we would have had some issues. And we, you know, temporarily we used modern pads. Especially some of the English style pads work really well for the McClellan saddle. But you know, when you do an authentic event, you don't want to bring those pads, because even though they may be small and concise for an English saddle, those pads, not like the ones we use on non-drilled or non-reenacting days, they still kind of peek out of the saddle blanket a little bit, and this just kind of takes away from the whole event.
Yeah,
right?
And it can be one of those make or break deals for that 3-second window of, whoa, you know, to see cavalry trotting by in the wee hours of the night on patrol.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the moon shines just right and you see this modern gel pad sticking out underneath. Right. It kind of takes away from
it does take away. And so one of the things that I've done, guys, for those of you who are having issues with sores, now for us, I've noticed that a lot of people I've talked to, because when we had this problem, I mean, I went out and I asked a lot of people, and not a lot of people had this issue. I've noticed that the people who did have this issue are the people that ride their McClellans, you know, 20, 30, 40 miles in a day for multiple days, or they really ride their McClellan saddle. If all you do is, you know, go to mainstream events, you know, ride for your, you know, 2 or 3 battles in a day on Friday, Saturday, you know, Sundays, leave Sunday afternoon, then you're not going to have the time and I guess the exposure to really develop those really bad saddle sores. I know on the 150-mile ride that we did in 2015, the saddle sores didn't really start showing up until day 3 and day 4, really. Day 1 and day 2 that we rode 30, 35 miles, everyone was fine the first couple of days. So solutions that we've done, actually, so you guys know, as I've tried 2 cavalry blankets, 2 of the blue blankets, which seems to be a good middle ground. Also, when you're doing campaigning, I do the 2 cavalry blankets plus your shelter half that I actually fold up on top of the withers, to where actually there's more where the pressure points are. I actually have more padding with my shelter half there. And if you want to, you know, on cold events that we've been on, we get issued 2 blankets versus the 1 sometimes, and I put that other blanket on top of that. A lot of blankets, and it definitely helps prevent, you know, major saddle sores. And actually that's how I rode the 150-mile ride that we did in 2015. So that's one thing to keep in mind is 2 blankets usually is that works unless you're going 30, 35 miles and you know, every day for 3 or 4 days. Then you're going to have to, you know, find another solution too.
And it also helps if you and your horse are fairly in shape as well.
Yes.
Don't John Wayne it and
no, not at all.
Have a 200-pound or 250-pound guy on a horse that's staggering under him.
Yeah, so, exactly.
You know, not that anyone is fat, of course. I'm certainly not having any chub issues, but
but that reputation for cav guys is that. So go ahead.
Yeah, heavy sigh. But make sure that you have good posture when you're riding. Make sure that, you know, your placement of your accoutrements and your equipment on the horse, the saddle, is far enough up on the withers that it's not going to be wearing sores in the wrong spots.
Exactly.
And just be aware of how you are riding.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. No, that sounds good.
So that's what's helped me. So.
Yeah. So honestly, guys, multiple blankets better than, or even using your issued sleeping blankets better than using modern pads. So keep that in mind for the problem of saddle sores on your horses. Again, with the idea of solving period problems with those period solutions. So the third and final thing we want to talk about as far as solving period problems, period solutions is
keeping time.
What time is it?
Yes.
Yes, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So again, let's identify and lay out the problem. What is the problem of keeping time in reenactments or during campaigns? What's the issue there?
Nobody knows what's going on when.
Right.
But that's just everything anyway.
Yeah, it's like every event's a cluster anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So a lot of times, especially on mainstream events, when there actually is a legitimate schedule that you have to keep and be on the battlefield at a certain time, then you have, you need to know what time.
The public needs a show.
The public needs a show. So how do we solve the idea of solving the time issue? How do we solve that issue without wearing, obviously, most people are pretty good about not wearing watches, right? So one thing that people do bring, and you're starting to see more of these, is the cell phone, right? Not only are these our cameras, not only these are phones, but they're also our timepieces as well. So the most common way of solving time, the time issue of knowing what time it is, that most people do, is the pocket watches, right? Mm-hmm. Now we have I would say 3 solutions to the pocket watch idea. One is an original pocket watch, actually has the key that you turn. The other one is, I would say, like a modern pocket watch that you wind, every so often. And the third is the $10 Walmart pocket watch that uses a battery, right? What are the benefits, the drawbacks to each one of those pieces there, or those options?
Well, if you used an original, it's great. It looks perfect, fits right into the
fits
time.
Right in, right?
Yeah, really authentic.
Yay!
But there is always the risk of loss or damage to that artifact. Yeah. I have an original Waltham that I would love to use at events, but because of the beating that it would probably receive, yeah. I just choose to leave that at home and use it more for living history programs.
Well, in my personal experience is I have an original one that you wind with the key. Not losing the key is also an art form, but I've had to rebuild it twice because I used to take it with me on reenactments, and it just gets the dirt and the grime, and honestly, horse sweat gets everywhere. I don't know why horse sweat gets everywhere, but it got into that pocket watch. I don't know how, but it did, and the watchmaker. Like, what do you do with this thing? I said, okay, I don't want to do that with an original, so I put that aside, and then I got a modern watch that you wind. Same problem. It got dirt and grime, and the gears wouldn't work. And honestly, I'm to the point where the $10 Walmart battery-operated watch, you get that 10-foot rule if you want to go by that. It looks all right, it's fine, but again, it's battery-operated. It's not that authentic. So. But one of the things I was going to say about the whole time thing is, again, period problems with period solutions. Did the common private know exactly what time it was, and did the common private, everyone, all thousands of them, did they all have timepieces of their own?
I don't have an exact answer for that question.
Right.
But one way that you could deal with that is, if it is not important for you to know the time, don't bring one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I've done plenty of events as a private, and it's not important that what time is it?
What time? It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter in the long run. But if you're fulfilling a role as an NCO or an officer for certain, you probably need some sort of timepiece just to make sure that everything is running smoothly and you're meeting your deadlines or whatever needs to be done at the event. And
so I think that's the key point to take away from this is, if you do have a role and responsibility, get a timepiece, right? Especially the sergeant of the guard, the corporal of the guard. Definitely, you kind of need to know the time. Mm-hmm. But as far as a private, this is kind of a challenge to all you guys, is one of the period, experiences that you can have is, who cares about the time? Be the private that just does what you're told to do. And no
little caveat in
there.
Okay,
what's your caveat?
Shout out to our musician buddies.
Yes.
If you don't necessarily need to know the time, but you need to know what the calls are for the correct time.
Yeah.
From the musicians, so obviously breakfast call, dinner call, etc.
All
the important ones, all the food,
the food is the most important call. I find that side note. I find that funny. usually the calls that most people get the first or remember first are the food calls.
Yeah.
Breakfast
Well, it's positive reinforcement. It is positive. That's a good reward. Right? You know your calls right there. Yeah, go get some food. Have a piece of hardtack. Good.
Yeah.
Again.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that time is important in that regard. Yeah. But it's the Army's time, not for your personal time.
No, yeah.
So in that regard, do pay attention to your musicians if your event is utilizing them and they're, letting you know you need to be doing something at this time. By all means, go do that. But on a small scale, though, I don't think it's that important for every enlisted soldier to have, let's see.
Every single, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. Pocket watch it. I'm comparing two different time periods right there. So.
No, and I would say as a challenge for me, kind of a period moment is just don't worry about the time. Just do what you're told. Do it when you're told to do it, and just be your standard private. So yeah. All right. Well, any other closing comments or anything like that for you?
Nope.
So again, guys, just a little, hopefully not too long of a video for you guys to challenge you on when, as a rule to live by as a reenactor, solve your period problems that you have in the field with period solutions. Try not to use modern bags for storage. Don't use modern pads if you can get away with it. Try your food storage. No plastic, no wrapping, anything like that. In general, just make sure, again, that you solve your problem in the field with a period solution. Thanks again for watching the 11th OVC. Appreciate it. Please like us on Facebook. Please subscribe down here on the bottom. There'll be some other videos that you can click on here in a little bit. Appreciate Brandon Lewis being with us this time. And until we see you on the field, ride hard.